Daniel Brooks stood before the Galactic Council and wondered, not for the first time, why he bothered. The chamber stretched above him like a cathedral built for giants. 50 different species sat in their designated seats, arranged in circles that rose toward the domed ceiling. The humans had the worst seats, of course. Bottom row, far left, where the lighting barely reached. He held the data pad in his hand and tried again. "The plague spreading through the colonies can be stopped," Daniel said. His voice carried clearly in the chamber thanks to the translation field. "Human medical teams have identified the pathogen. We've developed a cure. It's simple, effective, and we can begin distribution within 3 days." Counselor L, who resembled a tall gray mantis, clicked his mandibles in what Daniel had learned was their version of laughter. "Crude medicine," L said. "We are not interested in your primitive solutions." Daniel kept his face neutral. 50 years. Humanity had been part of this council for 50 years, and it never changed. He looked down at his data pad at the reports from Commander Lisa Martinez. Human ships were already moving into position near the affected colonies. Human doctors were standing by. All they needed was permission. "The plague has killed 4 million in the past month," Daniel said quietly. "Our projections show another 20 million deaths in the next 3 months if left untreated." Council Prime Ara leaned forward from her elevated seat. The leader looked like a cross between a wasp and a spider with crystalline wings that caught the light. "Ambassador Brooks," she said, her translator giving her voice a musical quality that didn't match the coldness of her words. "We appreciate humanity's enthusiasm. However, the Science Council is working on a proper solution, one that doesn't involve your rough methods." Daniel had read the Science Council's progress reports. They were nowhere close to a cure. They were barely close to understanding the pathogen. "With respect, Council Prime," Daniel began. "Respect," Elle interrupted. "Humans speak often of respect, yet you forget your place. You are the species here, the least advanced. You should be grateful we allow you to participate at all." A few other counselors made sounds of agreement. Daniel recognized most of them. The same ones who always voted against human proposals. The same ones who called for human military support but dismissed human ideas. Lisa Martinez, standing behind Daniel in her Earth Defense Force uniform, tensed. Daniel could feel her anger without looking. She'd lost friends in the last council conflict, where human soldiers had fought and died to protect colonies. The council had awarded medals to the commanders and barely mentioned the human casualties. Daniel set down his data pad. He'd prepared a longer speech filled with statistics and projections. He'd brought holographic displays of the cure's effectiveness. He'd even brought testimony from the 3 doctors who'd helped develop it. None of it would matter. "Let me be clear," Elle continued. "Humans are useful for certain tasks. You make adequate soldiers, your ships can carry cargo, your engineers can fix things when our own are occupied with more important work. But medicine, science, strategy, these require sophistication you simply don't possess." The chamber was silent. Even the counselors who sometimes sympathized with humanity said nothing. They never did. Daniel thought about the human research station in the sector, about the 3 human scientists who'd spent 2 years studying this exact type of plague, about Doctor, who'd practically lived in her lab for 6 months to develop this cure, about the 100 human medical ships waiting for orders. He thought about Admiral, who'd asked Daniel just last week how much longer humanity would accept this treatment. "I see," Daniel said. He picked up his data pad and entered a code. The holographic displays he'd prepared vanished. He looked up at Ara, then at Elle, then slowly around the chamber. "Then humanity will be reconsidering its position within this council," Daniel said. The chamber erupted in clicks, chirps, and translated laughter. Ara raised one clawed hand for silence. "Reconsidering," she said. "Ambassador Brooks, I don't think you understand your situation. Human trade depends on council routes. Your colonies exist because we permit them. Your economy functions because we include you in our markets. Are you threatening to leave over a simple disagreement about medical procedures?" Daniel looked at her for a long moment. He thought about all the things he could say, about the 40 sectors where human patrol ships kept the peace, about the 23 invasions that human intelligence had detected and prevented, about the 15 wars that human mediators had ended, about the 8 plagues that human doctors had already cured quietly without council acknowledgement. He thought about President Karen's last message to him. 3 words, "Your call, Daniel." "Not a threat, Council Prime," Daniel said. An observation. Humanity has served faithfully for 50 years. We've given much and asked for little. Perhaps it's time we reconsidered what that service is worth. More laughter. Elle waved a limb dismissively. Dramatic words from a dramatic species. When you're finished with your tantrum, Ambassador will be here. Try not to make too much noise on your way out. Daniel nodded slowly. He looked at Lisa, who met his eyes with a question in hers. He gave the slightest shake of his head. Not here, not now. Thank you for your time, counselors, Daniel said. He turned and walked toward the exit. Lisa fell into step beside him. The chamber's laughter followed them out. In the hallway, Lisa finally spoke. Sir. Send the signal, Daniel said quietly. Which one? Daniel pulled out his personal communicator, the one with direct encryption to Earth. He typed a single word and sent it. Enough. Lisa's eyes widened. She'd been at the security briefing last month. She knew what that code word meant. All of it, she asked. All of it, Daniel confirmed. 48 hours. Every human ship, every station, every diplomat, every soldier, every scientist, every teacher. We're going home. They'll try to stop us, Lisa said. Daniel thought about the human destroyer groups positioned at every major human outpost. About the defense fleet around Earth that the Council had never actually seen. About the technology that humanity had kept to itself, the weapons they'd never needed to use, the capabilities they'd never needed to prove. Let them try, Daniel said. They walked through the Council complex in silence. Around them, alien species went about their business, secure in their superiority. None of them noticed the two humans leaving. None of them realized that in 48 hours, everything would change. Daniel reached the human embassy ship and paused at the airlock. He looked back at the Council complex, at the massive structure that represented 200 species and 1,000 worlds. Goodbye, he said quietly. He meant it. Inside the ship, communication officers were already receiving coded messages from Earth. Lisa moved to her station and began coordinating with Fleet Command. Daniel sat in his chair and watched the screens light up with confirmations. From every corner of Council space, humans were preparing to leave. No arguments, no debates, just quiet, efficient withdrawal. The Council would laugh for another day or two. Then they'd start asking questions. Then they'd start worrying. By then, it would be far too late. Daniel opened a channel to Earth. President's face appeared on his screen. It's done, he said. Welcome home, Daniel, she replied. All of you. The first sign came from the sector, though nobody on the Galactic Council noticed right away. The human research station simply went offline, not destroyed, not damaged, just dark. Lieutenant Dawson sat in the Council monitoring station and stared at his display. 40 human installations, scattered across 30 systems. Every single one had stopped transmitting in the last hour. Check for equipment failure, his supervisor said without looking up from her own work. Had already checked 3 times. The stations weren't broken, they were deliberately silent. He didn't tell his supervisor that. He simply logged the incident and continued his shift. In 6 hours, he'd be gone too. Across Council space, the pattern repeated. Human cargo ships changed course mid-flight. Freighters carrying grain to colonies turned around. Medical supplies bound for worlds were rerouted. Every ship broadcast the same message. Contracts terminated, payment refunded, apologies for inconvenience. Then the ships vanished into and didn't come back. On the mining world of 5, the human engineering crew finished their shift exactly on time. They handed their tools to the foreman, uploaded their final reports, and walked to their shuttle. The foreman watched them leave and thought nothing of it. Humans were always punctual. By the next morning, every human on 5 was gone. The mining operation ground to a halt within 3 days. Nobody else knew how to maintain the deep core drills. Council Prime Aura first heard about it during her morning briefing. Her aide, a young named N, listed the incidents with growing confusion. 17 human cargo vessels have canceled their routes, N said. 23 research stations are offline. 42 engineering teams have withdrawn from Council projects. Within what, Aura asked. The last 12 hours, Council Prime. Aura set down her morning report. Get me Ambassador Brooks. We've been trying, Council Prime. The human embassy isn't responding. What do you mean, not responding? Their communication channels are active, but nobody answers. The building appears empty. Aura stood, "Send a security team." The security team found the human embassy unlocked. The lights were on. The climate control was running. Every desk was clean. Every file was erased. Every piece of human technology had been removed. In the center of the main hall, someone had left a single paper note. It read, "Thank you for the opportunity to serve. Humanity wishes the Council well." That was all. Aura stared at the note for a long time. Around her, the security team searched empty rooms. They found nothing. No classified documents, no abandoned equipment, no clues about where the humans had gone. "Contact Earth directly," Aura ordered. They tried. Every communication channel to Earth returned the same automated message. "This channel is no longer in service." Not jammed, not busy, simply closed. Admiral stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Vigilant and watched his tactical display. 30 destroyer groups, positioned at every major human outpost in Council space, each group coordinating the withdrawal with perfect precision. "Status," he asked. "Colony 7 reports full evacuation complete," his communications officer replied. "Last transport just entered, Colony 12 beginning final phase. Colony 19 has everyone aboard and is preparing to depart." Nodded, 50 years of expansion, and they were revering it all in 2 days. Every human, every ship, every piece of equipment, all coming home. "Any Council response?" he asked. Confused communications traffic. They're trying to figure out what's happening. No hostile action yet. "They won't take hostile action," said. "They think we're bluffing." He was right. In the Council chambers, L addressed an emergency session with complete confidence. "This is a negotiation tactic," he said. "Clumsy but predictable. The humans want something. Better trade terms, perhaps. A seat on the Security Committee. We simply wait until they state their demands." "They haven't stated any demands," another counselor pointed out. "They will," L said. "They need us more than we need them." Aura wasn't so sure. She'd pulled the economic reports. Humans handled logistics for 40% of Council trade. They maintained early warning systems in 70 sectors. They provided medical support to 100 colonies. Their military advisors served in 24 conflict zones. But surely they wouldn't abandon all of that. Surely they'd negotiate. She sent another message to Earth, and another, and another. All of them vanished into silence. On the frontier world of Station, a pirate group that had been quiet for years detected the change immediately. The human patrol ship that usually swept the sector was gone. They sent a scout to check. The scout found nothing. No human ships, no human bases. The sector was wide open. Within hours, 3 pirate fleets moved into position. Within days, they'd raided 5 trading posts that had been safe for decades. The Council security forces responded, but without human intelligence data, they arrived too late every time. President Karen sat in her office on Earth and reviewed the reports. The recall was proceeding ahead of schedule. In another 20 hours, every human would be out of Council space. "Madame President," her chief of staff said, "the Council is still trying to make contact." "Let them try," Karen said. "They're starting to realize something's wrong. Their trade networks are failing. 3 wars have reignited. The plague is spreading." "Not our problem anymore," Karen said quietly. "Some of our people are asking if we're being too harsh." Karen looked up. "Too harsh? We spent 50 years being insulted, dismissed, and used. We gave them our best minds, our bravest soldiers, our most advanced medicine. We asked only for basic respect. They gave us contempt." She shook her head. "We're not being harsh, we're being honest. They don't value us. Fine. They can manage without us." She stood and walked to the window. Outside, the sky was full of ships, hundreds of them arriving from every corner of Council space. Cargo vessels and warships and colony transports all coming home. "How long until the last one arrives?" she asked. 18 hours, Madame President. Ambassador is on the final diplomatic shuttle." "Good," Karen said. "Once she's clear, activate the perimeter." Had been Earth's cultural ambassador to for 5 years. She'd taught children about human art. She'd organized cultural exchanges. She'd tried, genuinely tried, to build bridges between species. She walked through the capital one last time, looking at the spires and gardens. Beautiful world. beautiful people in their way. They'd never once invited her to their festivals, never asked about human culture beyond superficial curiosity, never treated her as anything but a novelty. Her shuttle waited at the spaceport. No one came to see her off. Why would they? She was just a human. Boarded her shuttle, took one last look at and gave the order to depart. She was the last human in Council space. Her pilot, Captain Wright, set course for Earth. "Perimeter's going up as soon as we clear the boundary," he said. "I know," said. She watched the stars slip past as they entered. When they emerged, Earth's star system was visible ahead. And surrounding it, like a massive wall of steel and light, was the human defense fleet. Had never seen so many ships in one place. Destroyers, carriers, cruisers, defense platforms. Thousands of them arranged in perfect formation around Earth's solar system. "Welcome home, Ambassador," a voice said over the communication channel. "Perimeter is now active. Nothing gets in, nothing gets out." Felt something release in her chest. Relief, maybe, or vindication. "Good," she said. Back in Council space, Aura finally understood. She'd sent 3 ships to Earth, demanding an explanation. They'd reached the Sol system and found it surrounded by a defensive grid that made Council military installations look primitive. The human ships hadn't fired. They'd simply blocked access and broadcast a message. "Earth is closed, do not attempt entry." The Council ships had tested the defenses. Once. The human response had been immediate and overwhelming, not destructive, just completely effective. The Council ships had been disabled and sent drifting back the way they came. Aura looked at the reports piling up on her desk. Trade failures, military disasters, medical emergencies, economic collapse beginning in a dozen sectors. And Earth, silent and unreachable behind its wall of ships. "They're not coming back," she said quietly. Her aide didn't answer. There was nothing to say. The Council had laughed at humanity's withdrawal. Now they were beginning to understand. 3 months after the humans left, Councilor On stood in what used to be the Council Military Command Center and tried not to panic. The Admiral was known for his calm demeanor, but the tactical display in front of him was enough to shake anyone's composure. Red markers covered the map. Each one represented a crisis. Pirates in the sector, border conflicts in the Terminus Reach, raiders hitting supply convoys in the Outer Rim, 3 separate wars that had been contained for years, now spreading like wildfire. "How many incidents in the last week?" he asked his aide. 217, Admiral. On's gills fluttered in distress. "And our response rate?" "We've managed to address 43 of them. The rest happened too fast, or we didn't detect them in time." "The early warning systems?" "All offline, sir. They were maintained by human technicians." On had read the reports. 70 sectors, all covered by human-designed detection grids. Simple, efficient systems that caught threats before they became problems. The Council's own military had considered them unnecessary. Why waste resources on detection when you could invest in bigger ships? Now those bigger ships were arriving too late, every single time. In the medical centers, the plague that humans had offered to cure 3 months ago was now a pandemic. Dr. Ra watched another patient die and felt rage and despair in equal measure. 7 worlds infected now, 40 million dead. The Science Council was still working on a cure, still insisting they didn't need human help. Dr. Ra had read the human research. She'd seen their cure, studied their methods. It would work. It was elegant, efficient, and safe. But El had forbidden any contact with Earth. Pride, he called it, sovereignty. Dr. Ra called it murder. She pulled up her secret files, the ones she'd hidden from the Science Council. Records of human medical teams. Names and faces of doctors who'd worked alongside physicians. She found Doctor's file and stared at the woman's face. "You tried to help us," Ra whispered to the image. "We should have listened." The communication channel to Earth was still dead. Ra had tried every day for 3 months. Silence, always silence. In the council chambers, Aura reviewed historical records that she should have read years ago. Her staff had compiled everything about human contributions to council security over the past 50 years. The numbers were staggering. 23 invasion attempts detected and prevented by human intelligence. 15 wars mediated and ended by human diplomats. 8 plagues cured by human medical teams. 40 sectors patrolled by human ships, keeping pirate activity to near zero. And the Council had never acknowledged any of it. Ara found footage from 12 years ago. A Council colony ship, the Bright Hope, had suffered catastrophic engine failure near a black hole. Rescue was impossible. Everyone knew it. The ship was too close to the event horizon. Any rescue vessel would be pulled in too. But Captain Brandon Lee hadn't accepted that. His human destroyer, the Defiant, had gone in anyway. The footage showed his ship pushing through gravitational forces that should have torn it apart. Lee had locked a tractor beam onto the Bright Hope and pulled it free, burning out his own engines in the process. 400 colonists had lived because of that rescue. The Council had given Lee a medal. Then they'd sent him and his crew to patrol one of the worst sectors in Council space, the same assignment given to humans who failed. Ara watched Lee accept his medal in the footage, saw him smile and salute. He'd seemed honored, grateful even. She'd never bothered to learn what happened to him after that. She checked his file now. Captain Brandon Lee had died 2 years later, killed in action while defending a trade station from raiders. His crew had fought off 30 pirate ships with one destroyer. They'd saved the station but lost half their people doing it. The Council's official report mentioned the incident in 3 sentences. Ara closed the file and sat in silence for a long time. The flagship Pride of the Empire had been the Council's most powerful warship for 20 years. Admiral L commanded it with fierce pride, showing it off at every Council military review. Now it sat dead in space, all systems offline. "Engineering report," L demanded. His chief engineer, a nervous young named Ra, pulled up diagnostic displays. "Sir, the primary systems are failing across the board. Power distribution, navigation, weapons control. Everything's breaking down." "How is that possible? This ship was inspected last month." "Yes, sir, but—" Ra hesitated. "The inspection was performed by Council engineers. The actual maintenance was done by human technical teams. They kept detailed records, but we can't read most of them. The systems they worked on are too complex for our current understanding." El felt cold fury settle in his chest. "Are you telling me this ship only functions because humans were maintaining it?" "Yes, sir, and they documented everything, but they used human technical specifications and measurement systems. We're trying to translate, but it's slow work. Some of these repairs require equipment we don't have." The Pride of the Empire, the symbol of military might, was helpless because its human maintenance crew had gone home. El wanted to rage, to blame someone, but there was no one to blame except the Council itself. El addressed another emergency session, and even he was starting to look worried. The counselor stood before his peers and tried to maintain his usual confidence. "We are experiencing temporary difficulties," he said. "Adjustments must be made, new systems must be implemented, but we will adapt. We do not need human assistance." 40 million are dead from the plague," Dr. Ross said from the gallery. She'd come to the session uninvited, breaking protocol. "How many more will die while we adapt?" "The Science Council is working on solutions," El replied. "The humans had a solution 3 months ago. You called it crude." "It was crude, unproven. It was tested on 50 different pathogens. It had a 97% success rate. I read their research, did you?" El's mandibles clicked in anger. "Remove her from the chamber." As security escorted Dr. Ra out, she shouted back, "You're killing your own people because you're too proud to admit you were wrong." The chamber fell silent. Nobody contradicted her. Ara stood. "We need to discuss our options. The situation is deteriorating rapidly. Perhaps we should attempt contact with Earth again." "They sealed their borders," El said. "They won't respond." "We haven't truly tried. We sent 3 ships. We should send a proper diplomatic mission." On shook his head. "Council Prime, we tried to breach their perimeter last week, quietly without authorization, 6 of our best stealth ships." The chamber went very quiet. "What happened?" Ara asked, though she already knew. "Human defenses detected them before they got within sensor range of Earth. Our ships were disabled in seconds. Not destroyed, just completely shut down, every system. The humans towed them back to Council space and left them drifting with a message. Do not return." "How did they do that?" someone asked. "We don't know. The technology they used doesn't match anything in our databases. The ship's crews reported seeing weapons platforms that shouldn't be possible, energy signatures we can't explain. Ara felt something close to fear. How much of their real military capability did we actually see? I don't think we saw any of it, On said quietly. I think for 50 years they showed us only what we expected to see. Small patrol ships, simple weapons, basic technology. We thought we were superior, so they let us think it. The implications of that settled over the council like a heavy blanket. Far beyond council space, something else had noticed the change. The swarm was an ancient enemy pushed back by council forces 2 generations ago. They'd been quiet since then, growing their numbers in the dark spaces between stars. Their scout ships had been watching the council borders for years, waiting for weakness. Human patrol ships had always been there, alert and dangerous. Small ships, but fierce. They had learned to avoid them. Now those ships were gone. The scout returned to the swarm and reported. The council's borders were open. Their defenses were in chaos. The humans who had held the frontier for 50 years had vanished. The swarm queen listened to the report and made her decision. It was time. Mobilization began across 1,000 hive ships. Millions of warriors prepared for war. They would sweep through council space like they had before, taking worlds and resources and moving on. But this time, there would be no humans to stop them. Back in the council chambers, warning systems that still functioned picked up strange readings from the edge of explored space. Mass movement, energy signatures, something big was coming. Ara read the reports and felt her hope crumble. Though she said, On nodded grimly, they're mobilizing full invasion force, they know we're weak. Can we stop them? With humans, maybe, without them. He looked at his tactical displays at the chaos already overwhelming their forces. No, not a chance. Ara looked around the council chamber, at the species who'd ruled the galaxy for centuries, at the pride and arrogance that had driven away their strongest allies. Contact Earth, she said. Keep trying, every day, every hour. Send me 6 months had passed since humanity left and the Galactic Council was dying. Admiral On watched his fleet fall apart on the tactical display. The swarm had broken through the outer defenses 2 weeks ago. Since then, it had been nothing but retreat and disaster. 7th Fleet is gone, his communications officer reported. 9th Fleet is requesting emergency evacuation. They have surrounded them. On wanted to send help. He had nothing to send. Every available ship was already engaged, already dying. Tell 9th Fleet to break through as best they can, he said. We can't spare reinforcements. He watched the display as 9th Fleet tried to escape. They swarmed them like insects, overwhelming their defenses through sheer numbers. 30 council ships died in 5 minutes. This was how every battle went now. The council had superior technology, better weapons, stronger shields. None of it mattered. They had numbers and they had something else. They knew exactly where to strike. They knew where the council fleets would be. They knew which systems were defended and which weren't. They knew the patrol routes, the supply lines, the weak points in every defense. They knew because the humans weren't there to hide that information anymore. On pulled up classified files, ones he'd only gotten access to last week. Files that Admiral had apparently maintained during his time with council forces. The files showed decades of engagement reports, skirmishes with scouts, small battles fought far beyond council borders, hundreds of encounters that had never been reported to the council. The humans had been fighting them for 50 years, quietly, efficiently, keeping them contained in deep space far from council worlds. And the council had never known. On found a message buried in the files, written by himself 5 years ago. It was addressed to human fleet commanders. Continue frontier operations. Maintain security buffer between space and council borders. Council leadership remains unaware of threat level. Recommend maintaining current strategy until council acknowledges need for coordination. On Reddit 3 times, the humans had been protecting the council from an enemy the council didn't even know existed, for 50 years. He wanted to scream. On the plague had become apocalyptic. Dr. Ra walked through hospital corridors filled with the dying and tried to remember why she'd become a doctor. 3 billion dead. 3 billion. The number was too large to comprehend. The Science Council had finally developed a cure. It had taken them 6 months and cost billions of lives, and it worked exactly the way the human cure would have worked. Dr. Ra had compared them. The formulas were nearly identical. The humans had just figured it out first. She found Counselor L in his private office, reviewing casualty reports. He looked older than she'd ever seen him. "The cure is being distributed," Ra said without greeting. El nodded slowly. "I know. 3 billion dead, because you wouldn't accept human help." "The humans are gone," El said tiredly. "What does it matter now?" "It matters because you were wrong. You called their medicine crude. You called them primitive. And now our people are dead because of your pride." El met her eyes. For the first time, she saw something like shame there. "I know," he said quietly. Ra turned to leave, then stopped. The humans documented everything. Every cure, every treatment, every medical advance they made. They left it all in our medical databases before they departed. Do you know what the file was labeled? El shook his head. "For future reference, good luck. They gave us their knowledge even as they left, even after we rejected them." She walked out and left him sitting in the dark. On 6 different council worlds, civil wars erupted. These were worlds with complex political situations, worlds that had been stable only because of human peacekeepers and mediators. The humans had served as neutral parties. They'd negotiated treaties, monitored elections, kept militant factions separated. They'd done it so smoothly that most people forgot they were there. Now they were gone, and old hatreds flared back to life. The Council sent peacekeeping forces, but without human experience and intelligence, they made everything worse. They took sides without meaning to. They escalated conflicts trying to contain them. They broke treaties they didn't understand. Within weeks, millions were dead in civil wars that should never have started. Ara sat in her office and read intelligence reports that made her sick. The reports were old, dating back decades. They'd been classified at the highest levels, apparently filed away and forgotten by previous council administrations. They showed the truth about human capabilities. The patrol ships the council had seen weren't humanity's military. They were scouts, light frigates, the equivalent of police cruisers. Earth's actual defense fleet consisted of ships the council had never seen, carriers that could deploy thousands of fighters, destroyers with weapons that bent physics in ways council science didn't understand, defense platforms that could sterilize entire systems. And the numbers, oh, the numbers. The council had estimated Earth's fleet at maybe 3,000 ships. The actual number, according to these reports, was closer to 50,000. Humanity had hidden 94% of its military capability for 50 years. "Why?" Aura asked the empty air. "Why hide this?" Lieutenant Tyler Nash's report, filed 30 years ago and buried in the archives, provided the answer. Aura read his words with growing horror. Human military philosophy prioritizes deterrence through uncertainty rather than demonstration of force. By appearing smaller than we are, we encourage peaceful resolution. Species that believe themselves superior are less likely to engage in conflict. This strategy has prevented an estimated 47 potential wars in the past decade alone. The humans had made themselves look weak, on purpose to keep the peace. And the council had treated them like servants. Aura authorized one last attempt at contact, a formal diplomatic mission led by her personally. She would go to Earth's borders, she would apologize, she would beg if necessary. The delegation consisted of 20 ships, everyone carrying a council dignitary. They approached the Sol system with all weapons powered down, broadcasting peaceful intentions on every frequency. The human defense perimeter lit up when they arrived. Thousands of ships, arranged in perfect formation. Between them, the massive defense platforms that the old intelligence reports had warned about. Aura's ship moved forward slowly. "This is Council Prime Aura of the Galactic Council. I request an audience with human leadership. We acknowledge our past mistakes. We seek to negotiate new terms of cooperation." The response came immediately, but it wasn't from a person. It was an automated system, cold and emotionless. "Earth is closed to Galactic Council traffic. All previous agreements are void. Humanity is no longer available for consultation or cooperation. Please direct all inquiries to your own resources. Do not attempt to breach this perimeter. Further contact is not welcome." Ara tried again. We understand your anger. We were wrong to treat you as we did, but they are invading. Billions are dying. We need help. Silence. Please, Ara said, and hated the desperation in her voice. We're asking, not demanding. We're asking for help. The automated voice responded again, exactly the same. Earth is closed to Galactic Council traffic. All previous agreements are void. Ara's communication officer looked at her. Council Prime, should we try to push through? She thought about the defense grid, about the ships they'd sent 6 months ago, disabled in seconds, about the weapons the humans had kept hidden for 50 years. No, she said, we retreat. There's nothing for us here. As her ships turned away, Ara saw something on her sensors. A human ship, small and fast, departing from the perimeter. It jumped to heading toward deep space. Going somewhere, doing something. But not coming to help the Council. Back at the Council, the news was worse than ever. The swarm had broken through the inner defenses. They were 3 days away from the core systems. Counselor, who'd always been sympathetic to humans, addressed the emergency session. We need to evacuate prepare the civilians, get them to the outer colonies. We can't, On said. The control half the jump routes. Most civilian ships won't make it. Then what do we do? Nobody had an answer. Elle stood slowly. The counselor looked like he'd aged 10 years in 6 months. I move that we formally acknowledge our mistakes, that we accept responsibility for driving away humanity, he paused, that we accept the consequences of our arrogance. The vote was unanimous. For the first time in council history, every member agreed. It changed nothing. That night, Ara stood in the council gardens and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the fleet was coming. In 3 days, maybe less, they'd arrive. The council's remaining forces would fight, and they would lose. She thought about Daniel Brooks walking out of the council chamber 6 months ago. She'd laughed at him. They'd all laughed. You tried to warn us, she said to the stars. You gave us 50 years to learn. We never did. Her aide approached quietly. Council Prime, the evacuation ships are ready. You should leave. I'll stay, Ara said. If this is the end, I should be here. The humans might still come. They might change their minds. Ara shook her head. No, they won't, and we have no right to expect them to. She watched the stars and waited for the to arrive. In the darkness between worlds, the Swarm Queen received reports of complete victory. The Council's was defenseless. 3 more days and it would fall. She'd won. After generations of waiting, she'd finally won. But something nagged at her, a question her advisors had raised. Where were the humans? The Council had fallen apart so easily. The humans had left so quietly. It had all been too simple. Were the humans really gone, or were they just watching? The Swarm Queen dismissed the thought. Humans were weak, everyone knew it. The Council had said so for 50 years. She gave the order to advance. 3 days until the Council fell. 3 days until they claimed their victory. The swarm reached the Council on a Tuesday morning. Ara watched from the command center as their ships filled the sky, blotting out the sun. Billions of civilians huddled in shelters below. The evacuation had saved some, but most had nowhere to go. The outer colonies were already overrun. This world was the last stand. Admiral On commanded the final defense fleet, 300 ships against 10,000. He knew the mathematics, everyone knew. All ships defensive formation, he ordered. Make them pay for every meter. They attacked like a wave crashing against rocks. Council ships fought back with everything they had. For 3 hours they held, then the numbers began to tell. Ships fell, defense platforms died, the orbital stations burned. Ara made a decision. She opened a broadcast channel, sending her message on every frequency she could access, including the ones to Earth that had been silent for a year. This is Council Prime Ara, she said. Her voice was calm, though her hands shook. I address this message to humanity, though I have no right to expect their listening. Around her, staff members stopped their work. Everyone knew what she was doing. 1 year ago, humanity left the Galactic Council. We blamed them for abandoning us. We called them ungrateful, disloyal. We were wrong about everything. The fleet pushed closer. Explosions lit the sky. For 50 years, humanity served this council with honor. They protected us, healed us, saved us countless times, and we repaid them with contempt. We treated them as servants. We dismissed their contributions. We insulted their dignity. Ara looked at the tactical display. The defense fleet was down to 100 ships. We drove them away through our own arrogance, and when they left, we learned the truth. We learned how much they'd done for us, how much they'd hidden to keep the peace, how much we'd taken for granted. She closed her eyes. "They are here, our people are dying. In a few hours, this world will fall. I don't send this message to ask for help. Humanity owes us nothing. I send it to apologize, to admit our mistakes, to say that we were wrong and you were right to leave." Someone touched her shoulder, her aide, tears running down her face. "I'm sorry," Ara finished. "For all of it, I hope wherever you are you found the respect you always deserved." She ended the transmission. The command center was silent except for the sounds of battle. Nobody spoke. There was nothing left to say. "Council Prime," the communication officer said quietly. "We're being hailed from Earth." Ara's head snapped up. "What?" "It's coming through now." President Karen's face appeared on the main display. She looked older than Ara remembered. Harder, maybe, but not unkind. "Council Prime Ara," Karen said, "we received your message." "President," Ara felt hope and shame in equal measure. "I didn't expect a response. We've been monitoring your situation. We've heard everything that's happened in the past year." "Then you know we're finished, that we'll take this world in hours." Karen nodded slowly. "We know. We also know that you've finally understood what we tried to tell you for 50 years. I'm sorry. I know those words mean nothing now, but I am truly sorry." "Your apology is noted," Karen said, "but we're not here because of your apology." Ara didn't understand. "Then why are you here?" "Because 3 billion died from a plague we could have cured. Because 6 worlds are burning in civil wars we could have prevented. Because right now, millions of innocent people are about to die in a war they didn't start." Karen's expression softened slightly. "We left because you didn't respect us. We're returning because those people deserve mercy. These are not the same thing." Before Ara could respond, the tactical display changed. New contacts, hundreds of them, thousands. The human fleet had arrived. Captain Wright stood on the bridge of the destroyer Redemption and surveyed the battle space. The swarm filled his sensors, a massive wall of ships between his fleet and the Council. "All ships combat formation," he ordered. "Weapons free, target priority is civilian protection. Let's show them what they missed." The human fleet moved forward, not in a defensive posture, not cautiously. They advanced like a hammer falling. The Swarm Queen watched the new arrivals with curiosity. These ships were different from the Council vessels. Smaller, faster, more organized. "Identify them," she ordered. "Human vessels, my queen. Analysis shows advanced technology. Numbers approximately 5,000 ships." The queen considered. Humans, the Council had always called them weak, but the Council had been wrong about many things. "Destroy them," she ordered, quickly. The fleet turned to meet the human advance. 10,000 ships against 5,000. The mathematics seemed clear. Then the humans opened fire. The weapons didn't work like anything in Council databases. Energy beams that curved through space. Missiles that split into hundreds of smaller missiles. Point defense systems that created walls of destruction. And something else, something they had never encountered. Entire sections of the fleet simply stopped working. Ships went dark, weapons offline, systems dead, not destroyed, just disabled, drifting helplessly in space. "What's happening?" the Swarm Queen demanded. "Unknown technology, my queen. It's affecting our command and control systems. Our ships can't communicate. They can't coordinate." The human fleet pressed forward. Every shot was precise. Every maneuver was calculated. They fought like surgeons, cutting the formation apart with surgical strikes. Watched his tactical display with satisfaction. The fought with numbers. Humans fought with precision. "Focus fire on their command ships," he ordered. "Break their coordination, make them scatter." Within 20 minutes, the advance had stalled. Within an hour, they were retreating. Within 2 hours, they were running. The human fleet didn't pursue. They formed a protective barrier around the Council and held position. Admiral On stared at his displays in disbelief. The battle was over. They were fleeing. And the human ships sat there calm and steady as if they'd just completed a training exercise. "Get me Captain Wright," he said. appeared on his screen looking tired but composed. Admiral On, good to see you're still alive. Captain, what just happened? We stopped your world is safe. But how, their numbers? Numbers don't win battles, said. Strategy does, coordination does, technology does. They are strong, but they're predictable. We've been fighting them for 50 years. We know their patterns. On remembered the classified files, the secret war the humans had fought. You've been protecting us all along. We were protecting everyone. It's what we do. On the council, medical ships began landing. Doctor stepped off the first transport and was met by Dr. Ra. The doctor stared at the human woman she'd seen in so many files. You came back. Of course we came back, said. We're doctors, people are dying, what else would we do? We rejected your help, we called your medicine crude. Shrugged, your politicians did that, not your sick, not your doctors, not the people who actually needed help. She pulled out a data pad. This is the cure for the plague, same one we offered a year ago. Start distribution immediately. I've brought enough for every infected person in council space. Ra took the data pad with shaking hands. Why, after everything? Because it's the right thing to do, said simply. And because one day, when we need help, I hope someone will do the right thing for us. President Karen addressed the council 3 days later. The chamber was damaged from the bombardment, but it was functional. Ara sat in her seat, looking smaller than Karen remembered. We need to establish new terms, Karen said. Humanity will not be rejoining the Galactic Council. The chamber stirred. Councilors looked at each other. We will, however, maintain an alliance. As equals, we'll provide military support, medical assistance, and technological cooperation, but on our terms with our dignity intact. Ara stood. We accept completely whatever terms you propose. The terms are simple, Karen said. Respect, recognition, fair compensation for services rendered, and the understanding that we are partners, not servants. Done, Ara said immediately. Other councilors voiced agreement. Karen nodded. Then we have an accord. Humanity stands with the council, not as members, but as allies. Later, in private, Ara met with Karen in a small office overlooking the damaged city. I'm stepping down, Ara said. The council needs new leadership, leadership that understands what you tried to teach us. Which was, Karen asked. That strength without wisdom is worthless. That power without respect is hollow. That the measure of a civilization isn't its technology, but its character. Karen smiled slightly. You learned well, too bad it took a war. I have one question, Ara said. Why did you come back, really? Karen looked out the window at the city, at the people rebuilding their lives. Because those people down there didn't insult us. Your politicians did. Your military leaders did. But the farmers and teachers and shopkeepers, they just lived their lives. They didn't deserve to die for mistakes they didn't make. So you returned for them. We returned because mercy is stronger than vengeance. Because helping people who wronged you proves you're better than they thought. And because, Karen paused. Because 50 years ago, another species helped humanity when we needed it. They didn't have to. We hadn't earned it. But they helped anyway. I guess we're paying that forward. Ara didn't know what to say. 3 months later, Daniel Brooks returned to the council chambers. Not as an ambassador. As Secretary of Human Affairs, representing an independent Earth government in alliance negotiations. He walked through the same halls where he'd been dismissed a year ago. This time, councilors greeted him with respect. Some even bowed. He took his seat at the negotiating table. Not in the back row. At the head table beside the council leadership. Elle approached him privately before the session began. The counselor looked broken. Ambassador Brooks, Secretary Brooks, Elle corrected himself. I owe you an apology. What I said to your people. There are no words. Daniel studied him for a long moment. You're right, there are no words, but there are actions. You can help rebuild. You can advocate for the changes the council needs. You can make sure this never happens again. I will, Elle said. I swear it. Then we have nothing more to discuss about the past. Let's talk about the future. That evening, Daniel stood in the council gardens where Ara had stood a year ago. She found him there, looking at the stars. Do you regret it? She asked. Leaving, I mean, all the pain that followed. Daniel thought about it. We didn't leave to punish you. We left to remind you of something you'd forgotten. Which was? That respect isn't given by power, it's not granted by position, it's not awarded by ancient traditions. He turned to face her. Respect is earned through character, through how you treat people when they can't force you to treat them well, through choosing what's right over what's easy. And you chose to help us even after we'd shown you no respect. Because that's what good people do, Daniel said. They don't wait for others to earn kindness, they give it freely, not because they're weak, because they're strong enough to be generous. Ara nodded slowly. We have much to learn from you. No, Daniel said. You have much to learn from yourselves, from your own capacity for growth. We just reminded you it was there. He walked back toward the human delegation building, leaving Ara alone with the stars. She stood there for a long time, thinking about arrogance and humility, about power and mercy, about the price of pride and the value of character. The humans had left without a word. They'd returned with grace, and in doing so, they'd taught the Galactic Council more than 50 years of service ever could. The lesson was simple. True strength lies not in domination, but in the choice to use power with wisdom, compassion, and respect for all. It was a lesson the Council would never forget again. Unless something changed. But nothing would change. The humans were gone. Everyone knew that. Send apologies, send whatever they want to hear. And if they don't respond, El asked. Ara met his eyes. Then we face the alone and we lose. The chamber emptied slowly, counselors departing to their worlds to prepare for war. Ara sat alone in her seat, looking at the empty space where the human delegation used to sit. We should have listened to you, she said to the empty chairs. We should have treated you better. But the chairs had no answer. The humans were gone. And they were coming. The humans weren't bluffing. They weren't negotiating. They were gone. And they'd taken everything with them. The screen went dark. Daniel Brooks, ambassador to the Galactic Council for 20 years, leaned back in his chair and waited for his ship to depart. He didn't look back again,